Hello again and welcome. If you know what that's from, then you probably watch a guy named Engineering Explained. I'm gonna try to do my version of like a Engineering Explained video about paramotors, paramotor wings specifically. Today I wanna make a video to help you try to choose the right wing for you. Another video that I was watching recently on YouTube about dirt bikes, this guy said he almost quit the sport because he chose the wrong dirt bike initially when he came in. And I really took that and applied it to paramotors, and it's so true that if you choose the wrong wing when coming into the sport, or maybe as your second wing, it could completely ruin the sport and the experience that you will have, because it can make it very difficult for you to launch, or even to the extreme of causing you to crash and potentially get very hurt or die. So hopefully this video will help you make an informed decision on what wing to buy and what wing would be good for you. Not so much specifically this exact model from this brand, more so what class of wings. So the first thing that I want to get into are the different classes of wings. Generally, there's the beginner class of wings, the intermediate class of wings, and the advanced class of wings. Some wings kind of fit in between those models, but they're still more of one than the other. They might just have, you know, the glide ratio of an advanced wing, but not the speed. Or they might have the speed of an advanced wing, but they have more passive safety than an advanced wing might have. The beginner class of wings, typically when you're coming into the sport, you don't know what kind of a pilot you're going to be. You don't know if you would enjoy doing wingovers and spirals, or, you know, acro, or if you're the kind of pilot that might enjoy a cross country better. You don't care to learn wingovers. You just want a wing that is stable, flies hands off by itself, and it has lots of speed, so you can just dump the trimmers, put your hands in your lap, and just relax and enjoy the views around you. So the beginner kind of wings are not as important to me when choosing a wing as the second wing that you buy. The second wing is probably the most important wing that you'll buy in your progression through paramotoring. Also, the beginner class of wings are all generally very much the same as far as their performance goes. A lot of paramotor beginner wings are still ENB certified with the trims in, and that means that they all fly pretty much the same speed with the trims in, and they all handle pretty much the same. The difference is the features that they have. Some might have tip steering, some might not. Some might have a longer trim range, some might have a longer speed bar range. And you know, when you're coming in for your first wing, you don't know, do you care to have more trim range or more speed bar range? So the beginner class of wings is really just to get you through the first stages of learning to paramotor. Teach you to launch and land safely, teach you to understand weather and limitations of your gear and things like that. So I'm gonna skip over the beginner class of wings and not go into as much detail. Just know that as long as you get a wing that's classified as a beginner wing for your first wing, you're probably gonna be okay. You're gonna be just fine. What's more important is choosing the right conditions to fly in and getting practicing a lot before you fly, or getting very good instruction. So let's talk about the intermediate class of wings. These are wings like your Nucleon XX, like your Speedsters, like the Dudek Report Air, and maybe even wings like the Dudek Snake 1.2 or Dudek Hadron 1.1. I wouldn't consider a free ride an intermediate wing. It's very much more an advanced class of wing. And the Dudek Snake 1.2 and the Hadron 1.1, those are advanced wings. However, if you fly them in the lighter side of the weight range, they handle and behave more like an intermediate class wing. And I'll touch on that more in a second. because wing loading plays the biggest factor in how a wing behaves in handling and collapses more so than the actual wing design itself. So what do you gain from moving to an intermediate wing versus a beginner wing? The biggest, most noticeable immediate difference that you'll feel in the air is the brake travel to how much the wing maneuvers. For example, on a beginner wing, if you pull 6 inches of brake, the wing just goes into a nice steady, it turns about 30 degrees per second turn, if you're flying it within the normal weight ranges. The intermediate wings are smaller for the same weight range. For example, I fit in the weight range, on a Dudek Universal in the 25.5 meter. But for the Nucleon XX, I fit in the weight range on the 22 meter. So that means I'm going to be flying a smaller wing in the intermediate class of wings, which makes the wing loading higher. The wing loading being higher means that when I pull the brake, if I pull the same 6 inches of brake travel that I did on the beginner wing, now the wing is going to turn about twice as fast as the beginner class wing did. And then the advanced class of wing is even more so. If you pull 6 inches of brake on a highly loaded advanced class wing, 16, 18 meter-ish for my weight range, the wing will turn and dive towards the ground and build up a ton of energy. When you turn, it dives towards the ground, and then you have a whole bunch of speed and energy built into the wing. And if you don't know what to do with that, what happens is you'll generally panic and not do anything, and then the wing will start to arc and recover on its own, and then you end up with this really aggressive climb out where the wing is very far behind you. From there, you need to understand what to do when the wing is going to surge forward after that. So that's why the advanced class wing should not be your second wing. And that's the biggest difference between the beginner, intermediate to advanced wings. The second thing that an intermediate wing can do more than a beginner wing is the speed range that you're going to get. Most beginner wings, flying as fast as you can, do about 35 miles an hour. But generally people fly them between 25 to 30 miles an hour. That's still plenty fast, but everybody wants more, right? If an intermediate wing costs the same amount as a beginner wing, of course you want a wing that handles better and goes faster. The intermediate class of wings typically goes to about 40 miles an hour top speed. Some are pushing 45. And then the most advanced wings, if flown in the higher weight ranges, can push 45 to 50 miles an hour. The next thing that I want to point out is that the higher class of wing that you go to, the more difficult they are to handle in stronger conditions, especially in launches. In a nil wind launch where the wing is very damp and wet, the advanced wings require a lot of finesse. They're very sensitive to not pulling enough A's on the launch and they want to hang back, or pulling too many A's and then they overshoot you very quickly, and they require the pilot to have to stop the wing from overflying you with just the right amount of brake pressure. If you pull 2 inches too much, then the wings will stall and fall back behind you. Or if you don't pull enough, 1 inch not enough, it can overfly you and then collapse as you're trying to take off. So the best thing is to be honest with yourself and your abilities. If you're the kind of pilot that only flies in very nil wind, perfect conditions, and you don't even use the full capability of your beginner wing, if you never maxed out its speed and use it, but you think that you're ready to skip the intermediate stage and jump to an advanced wing, just be honest with yourself and think, do you really need that? Typically, guys on the beginner wings, those wings are very safe and they dampen out a lot of the energy. And so guys might, oh, I learned wing overs on my beginner wing, I can do that, so now I'm ready for a free ride or a warp or a Hadron XX. I'm just asking you to be honest with yourself and really consider to not skip that intermediate wing stage. I started out on an E&B rated free flight wing, and I did my first 50 or so flights on that. So, you know, 50 to 100 hours, somewhere in there, I had before I moved to my next wing. And my next wing was definitely an intermediate wing. It was a 22 meter ITV Billy, 22.5 meter, and that put me pretty much right in the middle of the weight range on an intermediate class wing. And I feel like that wing really pushed me through progression. I learned spiral dives, I learned wing overs. I used the full speed range on the speed bar and the trimmers on that wing. I learned to use the speed bar to control pitch on that wing. I pushed the limits of weather on that wing. You know, I didn't go thermaling on my first wing, but on that intermediate wing, I learned to thermal. I did ridge soaring on that wing. I did all these things, and I never had any accidents or incidences on that wing because it was the right wing for me during the progression. If you're not doing all those things on a beginner or intermediate wing, in my opinion, you have no business jumping to the Warp Hadron XX, the Freeride, the Viper, that class of wing. They're not forgiving. So if you make the wrong brake input the wrong time, they don't save you. They don't dampen the energy for you. They're just gonna say, okay, this is what you built up all this energy and now you don't know how to handle it. This is your consequences. Boom, large collapse. So just really consider getting a good solid intermediate class glider in the correct weight range for you and learning all of those advanced paramotoring stuff on that wing. It'll make you a better pilot in the long run, even though it may not be the coolest thing to do. You won't have the newest, hottest wing at the field with all the guys, but in the long run, you'll end up being a better pilot and you'll have more fun doing it. So if I've convinced you now to buy an intermediate wing as your second wing, how do you choose the right one? Well, the most important thing to do is to weigh yourself. Get your current glider, put all your gear on, your motor, your helmet, your phone in your pocket, all that stuff, and stand on a scale and see how much you weigh. Find out what your true all-up flying weight is. Oh, and do it with half a tank of gas in your paramotor as well. Weigh yourself and see how much you weigh. Then take your favorite 2 brands of gliders and see what they offer in the intermediate range for you. Sky Paraglider Zorro, Ozone Speedster, Nucleon XX, or Report Air. Look at those wings and read the description for what the manufacturer says those wings are designed for. If they say this wing is designed more towards cross-country and sightseeing and it's very stable, hands-off, if they say those type of things and that's your style, then dig deeper into those wings. If you read the description and it says this wing is a freestyle wing, it likes swinging maneuvers, it's for pilots who just want to fly around for fun and play, and that's your style, then dig deeper into those wings. But if you're the kind of pilot that flies hands off all the time and likes to dump the trims and then take pictures with your phone and stuff like that, don't get a wing that's classified as freestyle wing, because generally those wings are not roll stable like the something like a Report Air. Dudek Report Air would be like very roll stable. So now that you've decided, okay, I want an intermediate wing and I want one that's roll stable because I like to fly with my hands off and take pictures with my phone, then look at the weight range. Personally, I like to fly a wing that is between 75% to 100% in the top of the normal weight range for that wing. What I mean by normal weight range is a lot of wings have a paraglider or PG weight range and a PPG or paramotor weight range. And some gliders have a paramotor weight range and then a competition weight range. So by normal weight range, I mean the PPG or paramotor weight range, not the competition one or not the paraglider weight range. I like to be in the very top of the normal paramotor weight range on wings because it requires me to run on takeoff and actually get some speed to fly, but it's not so fast that I'm running 50 yards before I'm in the air and I feel like I'm gonna wipe out before I can run fast enough to get into the air. When you're too lightly loaded on a wing, they tend to be very slow and very sluggish on the brake controls. I actually think that it can make it harder for pilots to fly. I think it can make beginner pilots on too big of a wing, it can make them have a harder time than if they got the correct size wing, because the wing is bigger and heavier, and it doesn't respond how they would expect it to when they want to turn the glider. You know, they pull the brake and then hardly anything happens because they're so lightly loaded on that wing. Versus if they were in the correct weight range area on their wing, you know, they would pull the brake and then the wing would respond how they would expect it to. That's just a general idea on how you should choose a wing. But like I said, the most important thing is choosing the correct class of wing, intermediate, you know, wing. If you're not really ready for an advanced wing, be honest with yourself and your abilities. And then choosing the correct size so that you're in the proper weight range for your wing. If you're like me and you obsess over these specifications and numbers and you really just want to make the best possible purchase decision for yourself, I mean, let's be honest, we're spending a huge chunk of cash for some nylon cloth and some strings. How do you determine, you know, what is the right, do I get this the Ozone Speedster or do I get the Dudek Nucleon XX? What I do personally is I go on YouTube and I search that wing, and then I watch every video that I can, that's a good quality video, about that wing. And I watch the pilots, how they take off and land, and I see, you know, did the wing, was it easy for that pilot? I also take in consideration that pilot's hour level and abilities and say, okay, well, let me compare myself to that pilot. Am I better? Am I a higher hour level pilot than them, or less hour levels? Would I also struggle with that class or that specific wing just like they did? Or would I have an easier time? Does the pilot fly? Do they use the speed bar and the trimmers? What is their confidence level? How does the wing look like it behaves in turbulence at those different positions? I look at every small detail that I can to tell, am I like this pilot, and is that my flying style, and does this wing suit me? Or no, that's not my style at all. This guy's doing crazy wing overs, he's going upside down on this wing, and that's not my style. But this guy on a Dudek Report Air is flying hands off with the trims out, and the wing is flying straight and level by itself, and he's just enjoying himself, and the wing's not swinging on him too much. That's more of my style. In my opinion, there's three different areas where wings can excel, and each within their own ranges, between beginner, intermediate, and advanced. The three different areas are speed, safety, and efficiency. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Here's my neat little Venn diagram that I made. Wings can excel in 2 out of these 3 areas, and you have to pick which 2 are more important for you and your style of flying. Speed, even comparing, not so much obviously an advanced wing is going to be faster than a beginner wing, that's obvious, but just in a specific class on its own. Let's take the intermediate class. There can be intermediate wings that reach up to 45, 50 miles an hour. And then there's some intermediate wings that don't go over 35 miles an hour. And then efficiency, obviously that's the glide ratio of the wing, or how much power it takes to, how much power is required to maintain straight and level flight. And then safety is more meaning passive safety. The passive safety built into the wing if a collapse did happen, and then the stability of it. I think that a wing that's more roll stable is generally more safer, especially for beginner intermediate pilots, than a wing that loves to roll on its own. So you have to decide which 2 of these you want. If there was a wing that fit in all 3 of these, it would be the perfect wing, and it would probably, that's what everyone would be flying. But as of right now, it pretty much doesn't exist. So you get to pick 2 out of these 3. Wings that tend to have more reflex I have a wing on its way here that I'm super excited to test out, and it's the Sky Zorro paraglider. And also, my intermediate wing was an ITV Billy. Both of those wings, based on specifications, pictures, videos that I've watched, and my 100 hours plus experience on my ITV Billy, both of those wings have a lot of reflex built into the profile. That puts them in the speed and safety class and not so much the efficiency. And that's really the biggest difference between intermediate to advanced glider. The advanced gliders tend to trade off some of the safety and give you a little bit more efficiency. But this area here fits more of the intermediate wings, and then the advanced gliders give you a little bit more of these two, of speed and efficiency. And then the beginner wings, some of them, like the Dudek Universal, is very efficient, especially when flown in the paragliding weight range. Or like the Ozone Kona wings, or look at whatever beginner slash paraglider wing from your favorite manufacturer, look at them. Those wings tend to focus on efficiency and safety. They're efficient. You can ridge soar with them, you can thermal with those gliders and stay up when you fly them efficiently. And they give you the safety of a beginner paraglider wing. If you do take a collapse on those wings, they reopen on their own. You can just pretty much relax and know that your wing is going to reopen if you do take a collapse. If you look at pictures and videos, and especially the videos of people kiting, you can tell if the wing has a lot of reflex in it or not. If you've seen some of my previous videos, I do a couple different tests that tell me how much reflex a wing has in its profile, and that gives me confidence to fly it fast, or tells me this wing has less reflex, so I need to fly it more like a traditional paraglider, and know that if I do hit turbulence when flying it fast, there's a chance it's going to collapse on me. Not that that's a bad thing, because less reflex gives you a little bit more efficiency, even though it can still be fast. Or if they don't give you a large trim range or speed bar range, and it's more like a classic paraglider profile, then you're giving some of that speed away and you're gaining some safety. No, there's no perfect wing out there that does it all. You just really have to dig for videos and reviews of wings and see how it handles in turbulence and when kiting it in strong conditions, to tell which one of these three, which two of these three categories that wing fits into. Of course, on every manufacturer's website, I have a thermal blowing through in front of my house at the park. Of course, every manufacturer is going to say that, oh, this is the most efficient wing in its class and the fastest and it's the most safe. The best way to tell if a wing is for you is to demo it. I've got 3 wings here behind me. I hung up just for this video. 1 so it would look cool, and 2 so I could talk about it and kind of give you a visual on them. This is a BGD base. This is a free flight wing, and it's a 22 meter, and it's a high B EN rated free flight wing. The handling on it is pretty sharp, and obviously because it's a free flight wing, it's more efficient than the other 2 that are hanging up here. It's going to fit into the efficiency and safety side of my Venn diagram here. This one is my 16 meter Dudek Warp, if you didn't know that already. I got some really cool footage of me doing crazy stuff on this wing, and I love this wing. It's my favorite wing by far that I've ever flown, although I'm really excited for the new Dudek Drift Air that's coming out. Can't wait to fly that. This wing clearly fits into the speed and efficiency class of wing, because it's very high aspect ratio and it's a competition wing, so obviously it has a ton of speed built into it. It's also a competition wing. They didn't build passive safety into this wing very much. Not saying it's crazy, completely dangerous and it's going to kill you. It's just meant for a pilot who doesn't need roll stability, or who doesn't need the wing to save them, because they know the correct time and place to apply the proper inputs to keep the wing open and flying. So that wing fits into the speed and efficiency. I've flown a 16 meter Snake XX for 100 hours plus. This wing is more efficient than that. even though they both can cruise at 45 miles an hour, no problem. But the difference is this wing cruises at 45 miles an hour with less engine RPM required to maintain straight and level flight. So you get a little bit better miles per gallon on this wing than you would on something like a Snake XX or a Nucleon XX. The furthest wing down is a Nivea Xion 15 meter. It's actually like a speed flying wing. It has trimmers on it. Mostly I use that wing for kiting and training. So like I was saying about the Nivea Xion, it's small and it's very reactive to turbulence and brake inputs. So it builds a ton of reaction time. It builds your reaction time to the wing surging forward or hanging back, and corresponding with you know, how much brake to pull or how much to let your hands up and let the wing fly. So I use that wing for training and practice. Sorry about that, my camera's overheating because it's 100 degrees here in El Paso, Texas. The last tip that I want to give you guys is trim position. You know, some people might get a new wing and think, oh, this wing is harder to launch than my old wing. It hangs back too much, or it always overshoots me and collapses. There's a really easy, simple trick that you can do to correct that issue. And all it is letting your trims out some if the wing is hanging back, or pulling the trims in more if the wing is overshooting you and collapsing. The other thing you can do is just adjust the technique with your hands and your brakes. So if the wing is hanging back more, pull more A's to get the wing up over your head. And if the wing is overshooting you and collapsing, release the A's sooner and add a little bit of brake pressure. And that'll really help your takeoffs. And how did I learn that simple, easy trick? I did it through kiting. If you do a ton of kiting in all types of conditions, you'll learn how your wing handles, how much A's to pull, how much brake to pull, where to set the trims for takeoff and landing. Letting your trims out for landing will also help give you some more flare authority. Let the trims out about halfway, and then when you come into land, that extra speed can be traded for altitude, and you can pull those brakes and slow the wing down almost to the same speed that if you just had the trims all the way in, but it gives you more control of your altitude with the brakes if you let the trims out just a little bit. Trim position is key. It really changes how a glider flies and handles. So at altitude, I encourage you to test different trim positions to see how it affects your glider specifically and learn about it. Also do it while kiting. Let the trims out and see how the wing handles in turbulence, and then pull the trims in and kite it and see how it handles. Learn by doing, as Andre would say. If you don't watch his channel, you should. The guy is super good. He makes quality videos about paragliding specifically, although he does do paramotoring now. Learn by doing. Watch as many videos as you can to learn about your wings specifically and ones that you're potentially interested in. If you want to see me test wings, shoot me a message, mail them to me, and I'll fly them. I'll talk about them. I love to do these reviews on wings. It's super entertaining for me. I love to test things out. Hope you learned something from this video. Hopefully it's educational for y'all.